help us uh, to write a dynamic script which can work on all the browsers. Okay, so this is the script which we made that day. We saw all the types of browsers being opened. Right, but I told you that what if I have to write a single script which works on all the browsers? Right, then you will use the concept of interfaces. Suppose I have a variable over here. Okay, I will make a new Java project. Right, and in this, I'll make a um, project or class known as, say, multiple browsers. Suppose I have a variable, right, that string browser equals to Chrome. Then I want that whatever script I am writing over here should work on Chrome. If I put the browser name as something else, then that script should work on that particular browser. Right. Common sense says that you can write like this, that if the browser is equal to Chrome, then you initialize your Chrome driver. Okay, so you simply write this line, right? And I'll add the jar files, right? Okay, then else you can write that if the browser is equal to Mozilla, then you initialize your Firefox driver, right? And else if the browser is Edge, you initialize your Edge driver, right? But the problem is out here, I'm initializing every driver separately. Okay, now if I have to fire some command on Chrome, I will have to write like this, that Chrome driver dot get to some website. Okay, right. Or if I have to get the title of that page, I will have to write a Chrome driver dot get title. If I have to click on a link, I will have to write the code to click. Similarly, for Firefox driver, I will have to write Firefox driver dot get So actually, this doesn't make sense. Okay, because for every browser, I am writing the code separately. Okay, right. So we want something which is dynamic, right? That is, uh, it should actually work on all the browsers, and you should not be repeating the code. For every browser, I have to repeat a code. For Firefox also, if I have to click on a link, I'll have to write some code over here. Similarly, for Edge also, I will have to, write like this. Okay. What did I do? Sorry. Right. So it doesn't make sense. So to solve this problem, we use the concept of interfaces in Java. Okay. Now, what is an interface? Okay. Interface is something, you can say interface is something which gives you an idea about the system. Okay, it just gives you an idea about the application, right? For example, if I open and if I run this script, it will open the website cnn.com. While looking at the website, you just get an idea of uh, you you just get an idea that what the website is about. You get an idea about the website, but you actually don't get the news. Okay, to get the news, you'll have to click on the link or something, right? So you will have to understand that interface gives you an idea. For example, if you go to a restaurant to have food, by looking at the a la carte menu, you get an idea that what kind of food is being offered, but how the food would be, you actually don't know. Okay, right. So similarly in Java, we have interfaces, right? So I'll make a new interface, right? And um, I'll just call it as bank. So it's declared like public interface bank. And in the interface, we don't have method bodies, we just have declarations, right? For example, public void on credit and public void debit. So in the interfaces, we just define our methods, or we just declare the methods, right? And just by looking at the interface, anybody can say that what's this interface is about. Okay, right. Now, in the interface, with the interface, you have got two advantages. Okay, the advantages are same method names and single handle or a reference. Now, what are these advantages? I will discuss about both of them. Okay, right. So let's discuss the first one. Okay, so once you have made the interface, you have to use the interface. Okay, you have to use the interface, and To use the interface, we create a class known as, say, HSBC Bank. And I will write HSBC Bank implements the bank interface. If by writing implements the bank interface, it means that HSBC Bank will implement both the functions of the bank interface. If a class is implementing an interface, then it becomes mandatory for that class to implement all the methods of the interface. Okay, so if I write HSBC Bank implements the bank interface, it has to implement all the methods from the interface, and you move the mouse over this, select add unimplemented methods, and it's going to add these two methods in the class. Okay, at the rate override is an annotation. You can remove it as well. But this is just a marker. It's known as an annotation basically. It's a marker which specifies that this function is coming from the interface. Okay, and inside this, suppose I'll just print HSBC credit. Okay, and HSBC and debit. Right. Okay. So out here, we made an interface and we made a class which implemented the interface, and that class has got these two methods. I cannot run this class because there is no main function right now. Okay, but I'll make a new class known as Citibank. Right. And Citibank will also have default functions from the bank interface, credit and debit. Okay, so public void credit. Okay, sorry. My mind was somewhere else. This will also implement the bank interface. So you will have to add the unimplemented methods. Right. And inside this, I can print Citibank credit and Citibank debit. Right. So these are the two functions in the Citibank, and we have to mandatorily implement them. If I don't implement one of them, I will start getting an error. Okay, so it's mandatory to implement all the functions in the interface. Right. So what I did basically was that I made an interface and I made two classes implementing the interface. Okay, interface had two functions, credit, debit. Okay, so both these functions were implemented in both the classes. Okay, right. Both the classes go and they both these both classes implement this interface. But what is the use of this? I could had simply not decided. I could have decided not to make this interface, and I could had simply made these two classes. I I could have decided not to make. So what's the use? I could have directly made the classes with the method names. The use is that suppose if tomorrow more banks come, then all the banks will implement the same interface. And if a third man looks at the code, just by looking at the interface, he will understand that these two functions would be there in all the banks. Okay, so this is the advantage. It gives a structure, a discipline, a format to the entire application. Okay, so if I look at the interface, just by looking at the interface, I understand that fine, credit and debit functions would be there in both the classes, HSBC Bank and Citibank. Okay, right. So what is this error? Hold on. Save this, yeah. Okay, so if I make running a class which has a main function, right? Test bank. I can create the respective objects of the classes, HSBC Bank. Okay, so and I can call the functions credit and debit. And similarly, I can create the object of Citibank and I can make the functions, I can call them. So when you run this, it calls the functions from the respective classes. Pretty simple. Okay, right. So I have to write over here city credit and city debit. Sorry. Okay. What am I doing? Okay, sorry. In Citibank, I have to write this, but I've written city only. Okay. I have to call it with the Citibank object. I'm sorry. What am I doing? Right. Sometimes when you're speaking and training, it becomes tough to concentrate on what you're writing, right? So over here, right, it becomes HSBC credit, city credit, and debit. Okay, and this is good. Okay, this is till now we are good that we have got individual classes. Those classes are implementing the interface and we get the same method names in all the classes which implement the interface. And just by looking at the interface, we can come to know that what kind of methods would be there in the classes. Now, if you go to the official website of Selenium, and if you open the documentation API docs, and if you go to the frames view and you scroll down, so these are all the classes, and whatever is written in italics, is an interface. Okay, for example, we have, hold on, just a minute. So all of these things, all of these italics are the interfaces. Okay, so if you search for WebDriver, okay, if you scroll down, you will get WebDriver. So everybody has heard about this or spoken this word WebDriver. Technically, WebDriver is an interface. And this is the interface from where the whole story starts in the architecture of Selenium. And all the driver classes, these are the implementing classes. All these driver classes will have the functions which are there in the interface, WebDriver. And if you scroll down, these are the functions in WebDriver, like close will close the current window, find element will find element on the page, get the title of the web page, okay, or navigate to some website. So these are the functions, basic functions to interact with the browser, which a WebDriver interface is having. Okay, and this interface falls into the three categories. The methods in this interface, they fall into three categories: controlling the browser, selection of the web elements, means buttons or links or the elements on the web page, and debugging aids. Okay, so there are three things in this interface, and the main thing is if all the classes, all my driver classes are implementing this interface, then all my driver classes would have the same method names. That's why if you look at this multiple browsers class which I had made, the get function is there in all the three driver classes. Okay, you can also write edge driver.get. Okay, you can go to some website and uh, the get function is there in all the three driver classes because all three are implementing the WebDriver interface. Similarly, get title function is there in all the three implementing classes out here. So one thing is sure that all the driver classes, the method names are same. But still this doesn't solve our problem. Even if the method names are same, I have to write a code which will be different for every browser. Okay, the solution to this problem comes from the second usage of interfaces, which is a single handle or a reference. Okay, now listen to this carefully. It's very easy to understand, but if you don't concentrate, then it might confuse you, whatever I'm telling you right now. Okay, so try to understand it in a right way. I'll be very patient. Right. So over here, if I add additional function in Citibank, okay, if I write public void international transfer, okay, so Citibank is providing an additional feature. It is providing the features from the bank interface as well, plus it is providing international transferring feature as well, which is not there in HSBC Bank. So of course, this can be done. You can add additional functions in the classes, But mandatorily, you have to implement the functions from the interfaces as well. So of course, I can call the function Citibank.international transfer. But if I, right now, if I create the object of the bank interface, I cannot create the object. You will get an error. In Java, you cannot create the object of an interface because interface is incomplete. It's just got the declarations. Okay, it's not having any body. It is abstract. Okay, it is incomplete. So we cannot create the object, but you can create the object reference. See, this left side is not giving me an error. The right side of equals to is giving me error. I can create an object reference. I can equate it to null. That means B is not pointing anywhere. Okay, but you cannot create the object. Fine. Now, till now, we had been creating the object of the class like this. That is the class name reference equals to the object name, new class name. Okay. Now I will create the object in a different manner. I'll write bank B1 equals to new Citibank. So interface reference. Okay, these two lines are different. Out here, I'm using the reference of the interface pointing towards the object of the class implementing the interface. Okay, so what is the advantage and difference between creating an object like this and like this? Right, with B1, I can access the functions coming from the interface into the class, but I cannot implement the proprietary functions or implement, sorry, I cannot access the proprietary functions of the class. I cannot do this. I can only access the functions which are coming from the interface into the class. So what is the advantage of creating the object like this? Because it looks like that you can only access limited functions. But if you can only access limited functions, then what is the advantage? Okay, I'll tell you, hold on. If I create the object like this, bank B2 equals to new HSBC bank. Okay, I'll put a demarcating line over here. And if I write B2 dot credit, so this will of course call the credit function if I run this from the HSBC bank. Right. But what I can do, I can in the next line, I can write B2 equals to the object of Citibank. I can change the reference. The handle of the interface can point towards any implementing class. If I write the same line b2.credit, so this will call the credit function from the Citibank. The command is same, but the handle is now pointing towards a different class. This will call the credit function from HSBC. So if I run this, you see that right? If you have any questions in this, then do let me know. Okay. So it is similar to if I write int I equals to 0. On the next line, I can write I equals to 2. I can move different values into I. Over here, you can move B2 towards objects of different classes. Okay, so this is a very wonderful thing because what I can do, I can write like this, say bank B3 equals to null. Okay, that B3 is not pointing anywhere. And based on my decision and choice, I can make B3 point towards object of Citibank, or I can make B3 point towards object of HSBC Bank. Okay, it is my decision that where B3 is going to point. All right. So similar thing can be applied in Selenium. In Selenium, how do we create the objects? We write Chrome driver, say cd equals to new Chrome driver. Then we write Firefox driver, right. Then we write, say, Edge driver, right. Okay. So instead of creating the objects like these, we can also create the objects with the interface reference. Okay. That is, say, WebDriver is the major interface, right? I told you some time back that this is the basic interface which is being implemented by all the classes. So you can create the objects like this. Okay, rather than using the handle of the class, you can use the handle of the interface. Okay, or I can initialize W1 to this, and then on the next line, I can make W1 point towards new Firefox driver. Okay, so it's my choice. This is similar to this. Okay, bank was the interface here. WebDriver is the interface. Okay, I can write like driver is say null. And based on my choice, I can make driver point towards Chrome driver, or I can make the driver point towards Firefox driver. When driver is pointing towards Chrome driver, if I write a driver dot all the commands, whatever command I give will be fired on the Chrome browser. Okay, and the same command, if I give over here, then this command would be fired on the Firefox driver. So I can have one driver reference and it can point towards multiple browsers. If during the training anyone has any questions, you can certainly ask me. You can unmute yourself and ask any question, or you can type your question as well. But at times when you type it, I'm not able to see it. I don't get any notification from Teams. So you can speak out, that will be good. Okay. So this is what the second advantage of interfaces is. That is, it gives a dynamic handle to us with which we can solve our problem, which I discussed over here. Right. I can write over here Webdriver driver. I will just create one reference and I will initialize that driver to either Chrome driver. So there's no need to write these lines over here. So you have to initialize the driver first. Okay. Right. So once the driver is ready over here, the driver is ready. It based on our choice, we will initialize driver to either Chrome driver or Firefox driver or Edge driver. So once the driver is initialized, we can fire the functions on the driver. Okay, so if I write driver dot, the functions would be same for all the implementing classes. So if I write http cnn.com. So when you run this, it launches the browser and it will take you to CNN. Launches Chrome browser because I had put up Chrome. So you can also put up Mozilla over here. So if you write Mozilla, then the same script, just have to change over here. The same script would run on Mozilla. And this concept of, you see that it's running on Mozilla. This concept of running uh, the same script on multiple browsers will be used till the end of the training. We will use it almost every day. Okay, so this is something which will be used again and again. In every project we make, we use this concept. No matter what kind of framework you are using, data-driven, hybrid, page object model, Cucumber, you will always use this. Okay, and later on, this instead of hard coding this browser name, you can read this browser name from an external file, any text file or a JSON file or a Excel file. It's a completely your choice. You can read the browser name from any particular external file. Anybody with any questions, please let me know. Right. I hope this concept is clear. Now, once you have launched the browser, you have to interact with the components of the browser. So I'll talk about that tomorrow because I will need much time for that. But right now, I'll tell you about few things which you need to do in this course. Look, Selenium, I told you that it's just a tool which can interact with the browser. It is just a tool which can launch the browser, take the browser to some website, click on the website. It will not help you to build test cases. It will not help you to build reports because, I'll tell you with the help of diagram. If a client comes to you and uh, the client says that fine, these are say 1000 test cases or scenarios we have to automate. So what you do is that you build scripts. Okay, you build test cases. This would be your first test case. This would be the second test case, TC2, TC3, right? And uh, you have to run these test cases. And when you run these test cases, there are many things you have to do. You have to, manage your data. Maybe your data is in a database. It can be in an Excel file. It can be um, in any form. Okay. So in a JSON file, right? And then along with that, you have to, manage and generate some good reports which can be presented to the client, that whenever the scripts are executed, some reports are generated. Moreover, you should also be able to optionally run the scripts. That is, these are your test cases. Sometimes you would want to run only few test cases, say only the smoke tests you want to run. You don't want to run the other ones, right? Or you only want to run the test cases which had failed in the last run. Okay. And sometimes what happens is you have to uh, also connect your system with grid, and you have to use Docker, and you have to use Jenkins. So how do you manage all these things? To manage all these things, you use a controller in between. This controller is TestNG. No matter which kind of framework you are making, data-driven, hybrid, page object model, Cucumber, TestNG will always be used. It's like a controller. It will call the test cases in a certain order. It will read the data and pass the data to the test cases. It will help you to optionally run the tests, report generation as well, and it will help you to kind of connect with grid as well and everything. If you want to run your program or your project from command prompt, you can also run it from command prompt. Okay, if you talk about Selenium, the Selenium commands would just be um, in this blue box inside the test cases, because Selenium is just a tool which helps you to interact with the browsers. So you have to learn a lot of things apart from just Selenium commands. TestNG is not made for Selenium. It's a unit testing framework in Java, which is used by the developers for unit testing and many other things. Right, it is not made for Selenium, but it's famous with Selenium because you can incorporate TestNG with Selenium and write good test cases. So you have to install TestNG first. So I'm asking you to just install it so that we can start using it. And to install it, it's simple. It has to be added as a plugin inside Eclipse. So I will be using TestNG in the coming classes as well. So you just write TestNG Eclipse and open this link and go to install the plugin section. And you would have a link over here. Okay, this link, click on this link and install the version 7.0.0. Okay, this is a stable version of TestNG. Okay, and it won't give you many problems. So copy the URL, go to Eclipse, go to help, install new software, and paste this URL, and you will get TestNG written over here. You click on this and click on next, next, next. It will get installed. You might get a small error in between. You can just ignore that error. Don't worry about it. Your Eclipse will restart and TestNG would be installed. If you go to Window, Show View, Other, you will see under Java, you will see TestNG. So if you see this TestNG, that means it's been installed as a plugin. In TestNG, we can write test cases, right? For example, I create a new class known as basic test case, and you can write a test case with an annotation at the rate test public void test application. So in TestNG, you don't have a main method. Like I told you that in Java, the classes which have the main method can be executed. We had the main method in test bank. But in TestNG, you don't have any main method. You have got at the rate test annotations. This annotation means that this function is a test case. Okay, you can write your Selenium commands in this function. Okay, test ng test case. Right. And you will see an error over here. You move the mouse over this error. You will see the option to add test ng library in the project. So after install test ng as a Eclipse, as a plugin inside Eclipse, you will get this option and you click on add testng library. So this testng will be added as a library, and if you expand this you will see a few jars of testng which come up actually, and you move the mouse over the error again and you will see the option to import the test annotation. You import it now, so the error will go away. So you can run this test case. You can right click on this file. You'll get the option run as, yeah, not on this, basic test case. This was the file, sorry. Right click on this and you'll see the option run as testng test. So when you run this, it will run as a testng test case, and when it runs, or you can also click on the run button. After that, it will run. Right. So it says that testng test case is printed and total test runs are 1, failures are 0, skips are 0. Okay. And if you right click and refresh the project, it also generates a test output folder which has got basic reports. This is index.html. This is a basic HTML file with basic HTML report from testng. This report is not so good. We don't use it. It automatically gets created. It shows that fine, you had this test app method, and this is the test app. This method is executed and it's passing. Right, but we don't use these reports. These are not very good reports. Okay, we will learn about extent reports later on, which are far better. Okay, so the idea over here is not to teach you TestNG, but at least install TestNG so that or whatever code we are writing, like multiple browsers, this code I wrote, this code can be converted into a test case and I can run this code out here. I can put this code out here. If I run this, this will now be executed as a test case. So it will run the same way, the Selenium code. So it will open Firefox and go to CNN. Okay, somehow it's not opening. Okay. Are you guys able to hear me? Is my internet slow? You guys are able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. Now, once in this test, the driver is ready. Okay, you have gone to the website. Now you have to interact with the components. And basically you have to learn the Selenium commands to which are fired on the web page. All the Selenium commands are inbuilt. Okay, so it's going to take us another, say, 8 to 9 classes to understand about the Selenium commands and to cover the Selenium API. Right. So to interact with the web page, Selenium works on the page source of the application. Okay, every application has a page source. You must have seen that. You right click on it, you on the web page, you get the option view page source. So this is the page source of CNN. So this is actually HTML, right? The basic HTML language, um, which is actually the server response which comes up. Okay, the browser actually interprets HTML and displays the uh, content on the web page. So Selenium works on the page source. So first of all, to understand how Selenium is interacting, you have to understand page source. Okay, so we will do that in the next class. Okay, if you guys have any doubts, you let me know or you post it on the forum. The forum had been inactive for quite a while. I had seen that yesterday. I also talked to my team, but like we are sorry for that. I did not know about it. And today I'll be actually looking at the forum as well. Um, so you can also post the doubts on our forum. It's after logging in, you will see the forum on the left side. Try to do this. The video would be coming to you within 2 hours or something from now. And try to look at this video and practice. Okay, make the interface and all yourself. That will give you a better idea. And if you have any questions, you please ask me.